Howdy folks, I'm occupational Ocola skipper, occasionally operating on occult ocelots.
I'm Amber.
And here are more occult ocelots for us to operate on, which just happen to be Reddit stories. Let's get started. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for embarrassing a guy at a party after he mocked me for carrying Narcan? I'm a 24-year-old female, and I was at a friend's birthday party last weekend. It was a chill vibe, backyard drinks, music, the usual. At one point, I set my stuff down on a table, including my keys, where I keep my Narcan, and on my keychain case. It's super low profile, and honestly, doesn't even look like anything medical unless you know. I carry it because I've had friends OD before, and I'm not taking any chances. Anyways, this one guy, we'll call him Brad, picks it up and asks me what the little fancy case is. For some context, Brad is one of those guys who has something to say about literally everything. He opens it up and then literally goes, Is this Narcan? Are you seriously walking around with Narcan on your keys? What are you expecting, someone to OD in the middle of the flip cup? I tried to brush it off and said, yeah, actually overdoses happen in all kinds of places. I'd rather be ready. But then he immediately laughed in my face, like seriously full-on laughed. He said that I'm so extra and accused me of virtue signaling. I was doing my best to keep my emotions under control, but I was honestly shook. I told him that it's really no different than carrying an EpiPen, like just basic preparation. I had to use it on a stranger in front of Panera a few months ago. He scoffed and called me performative and ridiculous. He then added, You sound like you want something dramatic, so that you can be the hero. And then, I kid you not, he said, It's giving me white savior complex. At this point, the whole group went silent and locked into conversation. I wasn't trying to make a scene, but I was fuming, so I said, I didn't need to be a hero. I just don't want to be you standing there with your hands in your pockets and your mouth running while someone slips away in front of you. Just absolutely useless, which, to be honest, kind of seems like your default. You act like having nothing to offer is some kind of personality trait, and you'd still find a way to make the moment about you. But sure, keep laughing. Must be nice living in a world where nothing bad ever happens because you've never had to care. But hey, ignorance looks good on you. Really completes the whole adult man-child who's never faced real consequences vibe. And yeah, that shut him up. I grabbed the Narcan case out of his hand and said, Sorry, that's for big boys. And I left. Fast forward to the next day, and now I'm getting a bunch of texts from people saying that I overreacted and that he was just joking. One even told me that I was making people uncomfortable by bringing drugs into a party setting. Narcan literally blocks opioids. It's not a drug you use to get high. And when I tried to defend myself, I got hit with a "you embarrassed Brad," and that I killed the vibe by bringing up overdoses. Well, for the record, I wasn't out there giving a TED talk. I just existed with my little Naxalone keychain. The only reason why it became a thing was because Brad made it one. Now I'm wondering if I overreacted. Should I have just laughed it off? Did I take it too far when I clapped back? Or is this the kind of stigma that literally keeps people from carrying life-saving meds? I swear I wasn't trying to be dramatic. Edit, because people keep asking, I got my keychain from Encase Tech. But there are other options. I just wanted something small and discreet, and it held up super well. Before I got this one from Encase, I got a plastic one that accidentally broke by sitting on it, and then I got this one from Amazon. That worked well, but was just too big to carry for me, so I have it in my car. And then now there are tons of places to get Narcan for free. 10 out of 10 recommend next distro. Alright folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. What he was doing was very much not okay, and anyone who's siding with him is not a good friend. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being prepared in case of an emergency, and I mean, I think Opie told it like it is. He would not be able to do anything in in a situation if someone were to overdose, and Opie doesn't want to be in that situation. She was just kind of, yeah, it sounded a little harsh, but it was nothing she said was untrue. And if it makes him uncomfortable, maybe he should think about how he handles those things.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I have here is that Brad kind of picked a fight. This wasn't like OP waving their keychain around being like, I can save people's lives type of thing, right? Now, if OP was doing that, I could see why Brad would be like, hey, just chill. But OP's keychain was just laying around. I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to make a statement or anything like that. Brad's the one who picked it up, looked at it, and then tried making fun of OP for carrying it when they didn't even know what it was until they examined it more closely. So I don't think that OP is wrong for blowing up at Brad here and, showing him that he needs to do better, right? You should be prepared in case of emergencies. And I think that that's a really important thing. So I'm glad that OP is carrying these, because you never know when somebody is going to need something like that. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Disastrous Ranger 401 says, thanks for posting. I didn't know these keychains were a thing, and I'm going to go and order one. And Mean Drag 4908 says, reading this made me fully realize that I had shoved some Narcan deep in my medicine cabinet, where it absolutely will be useless. Honestly, $13 for a keychain seems worth it. And OP replies, I love my keychain case, by the way. I think that I got it from a place called N-Case or something like that. The case logo says Nalax 1 on it. I definitely don't regret carrying it or anything. I just wasn't ready to be on the defensive in front of so many people. And DFJ DiGiulio says, that keychain case sounds like a good idea. I think I may have to look into this. Edit, for anyone else looking for actions that they can take to help save lives, I recommend CPR training. My employer offered a class for free a few years back. Look for the opportunities. And OP replies, definitely recommend. I carry it way more now than I ever used to. Unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Today I Messed Up by Terrorizing My Young Daughter. Okay, not today, but you know the deal. So last year, my daughter, who was 9 at the time, watched some shows on, I think, Peacock. Normally all went well, but one issue, they ran an advertisement for a new TV show about Chucky, the killer doll. The ads scared her to death. She could fast forward past them, but she developed this crazy fear of Chucky. And no matter how much I reminded her that it was just a doll, that she could beat up a doll even if it was real, and even when I told her of its history about how the movie started when I was young, she was so scared. So one day, I'm walking through town and I walk past the second-hand vintage store with some cool stuff. You know, old lunchboxes and vintage posters and action figures and all that kind of stuff. And what's in the window? An original Chucky toy. How ridiculous. I mean, when was the last time I saw a Chucky doll? I mean, when was the last time anyone saw a Chucky doll? So I snapped a photo because how perfect. I can show my daughter that it's really just a toy, like an actual not moving around doll, just a dumb toy. So I end up at home and I say, oh babe, I have something that I want to show you that I took a picture of. She runs on over saying, what? And I'm like, oh, it's a surprise. And I turn the phone towards her and voila. And she bursts into horrified tears. Oh my goodness, it's Chucky. Where did you take this? And I reply, oh, right by the Italian place at the secondhand store. Isn't it cool? And she freaks out. Oh my goodness, he's right there. That's like a mile away. He's so close and he's real. Why would you show me that? Why would you surprise me with that? And here I am realizing that I did the exact opposite of what I intended on doing. And obviously it was not going to make her feel better, and I'm an absolute total moron. And I had to comfort her for the entire night. And one edit, she's fine now. The fear lasted for like a week. Now she just reminds me of how dumb I was. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, hopefully this will be the kind of thing that she can laugh about when she's older. OP wasn't malicious, but I don't know how they thought that would be a good idea.
You know, I think OP exercised some poor judgment, but I don't think that they're a bad dad or a bad father. I think they could have been a bad dad or father if they had bought the doll specifically to, like, torture their child.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, that would have been a bad thing. But they showed them a picture because they were trying to have their best interests at heart. They wanted to show their daughter that the doll was just a doll, that it wasn't real, and that it couldn't harm anyone. So I think that OP is a good person, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Intentional Age 971 says, how old is she? And OP replies, she was 9. And Zamu Funbestu says, grammar police here, did you actually scare her to death or did she turn 10? And OP replies, hyperbole isn't a grammar issue. Some people just get too caught up on correcting other people.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is that guy who posted about correcting his date's grammar. And Xinceptor says, this is why you should be able to, at a minimum, block certain genres of ads. Like, why would I want a horror ad to play if I'm watching an explanation of rocket physics or a tutorial on how to disassemble a game console? And OP replies, yes, we were baffled by that. Like, why run that kind of ad during a kid's show? Why would you run an ad like that during a kid's show?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I would have loved it, but yeah, I understand that I am not all people.
All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Colluding with My Brothers to Put an Upside-Down Pineapple on My Mother's Porch? My mother, 69, moved to my city to be closer with us after her divorce about a year and a half ago. She's a country girl and is known for her sense of humor and being extremely personable. However, because she comes from a big family, her family were always her friends as well. She's not terribly good at finding outside friends and maintaining those relationships. So one of my brothers and I were at her home one day about 4 months ago, and I decided that we could put an upside down pineapple on her porch. For those unaware, this can signal that you are a swinger or open to swinging. And my logic was that people in the community may engage her. She would realize what it meant in that moment from the engagement. She would rightfully blame her children for it, and then they would all laugh about it, and she would potentially make some friends. We texted my other siblings, sans one, as he has loose lips. And we all thought that it would be a great idea, so we did. Fast forward to this past weekend, and that loose lips siblings notices it, and of course told her. She has absolutely flown off the handle and thinks that we did something terrible to her. The couple of friends that she's made have told her that it was the thought that counts, and it was a very cute idea. She is adamant, though, that we have sullied her community reputation and that she can no longer trust her children. All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, very much you're the jerk, and you're not being honest with anyone when you say that you thought she was just going to make friends. You wanted to humiliate your mom, and that's really what this boils down to. Like, there is no way that this would make her friends in a good way. These would be friends who were interested in her for something she didn't want. It could even potentially put her in a dangerous situation.
You know, I don't think that they did this out of malice. Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to ignorance or something like that. And I think that this is one of those cases where I think they were trying to do a nice thing for their mother. I think that they didn't think it through, and potentially made a really poor decision. And I wonder if the one sibling who has loose lips is actually just like a reasonable sibling who is like, no, you can't do nonsense like this type of thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure that is the case, and that they know that they would be like, yeah, no, you can't do this to mom. I'm telling her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, I mean, I still do not buy for 1 second that they did not do that. I think their end goal was just to make fun of her and make her a laughing stock in some way.
I don't know. I think that OP mentions that their mother has a good sense of humor about things. And so I think they just thought that this might be something that she could laugh about. And again, it's impossible to know their minds, right?
Oh, I know their mind.
So I certainly understand where you're coming from here. And I think that that's just one of those things where it's going to be difficult to actually read into what it is, and everyone's going to have a kind of a different interpretation of the text. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. You're the jerk like it's your full-time job.
Yes, vindicated by the wheel.
I guess the wheel likes that one. It wants the OP to have its full-time job being a jerk to their mother.
Glad the wheel sees things my way.
And Clary Fairy says, you're the jerk and what a dumb idea. Why couldn't you just help your mom get into some community projects or encourage her to invite her neighbors over for tea or something like that? Putting an upside-down pineapple outside her house could have attracted the wrong type of people to her home, and she could have ended up in a very dangerous situation with the wrong type of person. Imagine if some weirdo noticed and your mother invited them around for an innocent get-together and the weirdo was expecting something more. I dread to think what could have actually happened if she had declined their advances. Once again, you're the jerk, and you could have gotten your mother seriously hurt. It's disgusting that you're immature enough to have thought to do something like this in the first place, and now you've probably made her the laughingstock of her community. I mean, that's a very good point on that, right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, unfortunately, when you put things in kind of sexual terms, not everyone's going to be cool about it. And everyone should, like, regardless of, like, I don't want to, like, shame anyone because if swinging is your thing, that's fine. But there are bad apples in all communities, and not everyone always listens to people's no's, and you do not want to put someone in a situation like that. So I think that is a thing. But I also think they make a good point, and this is kind of like, I didn't put it together how to say it, but like, if OP genuinely wanted to help the mom find friends, there are a lot of ways to do that that don't involve any amount of humiliation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Why did the puppet turn down the deal?
Well, I can tell you why the puppet turned down the deal, because I was once a puppet, and I can tell you why I turned the deal down. It's because the deal was a bad deal, and the punishment for the bad deal was the wood chipper. And as a puppet, I don't really like wood chippers.
There were too many strings attached.
Ah, very good.
Today is National Day of Puppetry.
Very good, very good. And make sure to go find some strings for yourself so that you can be a fancy marionette, too. And I have Earl Grey. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Spectacular Saturday, folks. I hope your Saturday is off to a spectacular start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it kind of a hodgepodge.
Don't show people things that they're phobic of. Don't put upside pineapples on unsuspecting people's houses. I don't remember our first story.
The Narcan one.
And don't shame people for having Narcan, because that's an important and life-saving tool.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.